All right, it's 7 o'clock. We want to welcome everybody to Unknown Philosophers. I'm Briggs Cunningham, your host, broadcasting from the sun, also called, we call Arizona. With me tonight, I have my co-host, worshipful brother of actually two lodges and the founder of one, which is really amazing. Brother Cosmo, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, Brother Briggs. So happy! I'm so happy to be back with the show. It seems like every month we're like, we can't wait for the next one to come out. We do have a special guest tonight. He's been renowned around the globe now, pretty much. We had the opportunity of having him come out to Arizona back in 2017 for his premiere of 33 and Beyond. Of course, his newest hit, Illuminated, which hit the Amazon top list now for over 1 million, I believe, downloads. Wow. And he's working on some new material. So, there's really nothing to. There's a lot of things that we can introduce Brother Johnny Royal with, but he's a man of all trade in the arts, in Freemasonry, in the great school of mysteries. And also he's a renowned chef too, by the way. If you guys
I've seen it. Yeah,
some of his amazing dishes that he's been putting on Facebook as well. It's been a lot of fun watching him work. And with no further ado, I'd just like to bring him onto the show and we can have some fun tonight.
All right, how you doing this evening, Brother Johnny from California?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We love your films. You came out for 33 and Beyond, and oh man, it's just so awesome to be able to share that with people. If they have questions on Freemasonry or anything, I just say go check out that film, and they come back and go, "Wow, I had no idea how awesome it is." So I just personally want to thank you so much for making that film. That's going to be around for a long time. And Illuminated just got entered into the Cannes Film Festival. That is unbelievable. I'm super excited for you. Tell us a little bit about that, like when you got the call for that, and how important that is.
Actually, I didn't get a call. Someone had found a post about it and posted it, and I was like, "What? We got into Cannes." So it was
oh my gosh!
I found out through several different Facebook posts, and then I checked on it. I was like, "Oh, what? We got screened at Cannes," and it's interesting because I've never had the chance to go to the Cannes Film Festival, and this year it was all virtual because of COVID. But Cannes is essentially the epicenter for the global film market. So it's if you can get in there for screening your film to these different buyers, and the film is of good content, you have a good chance of getting, different distributors to pick it up for different countries worldwide. So right now the film's widely distributed in the United States, but we're about to close on Germany, Switzerland, Austria, and then we have Japan going too. That'll be all national television for those countries, and then on the airplanes going to and from those countries, and then eventually when the movie theaters open back up as well.
Wow, that's incredible. What was it like when you were was it Bavaria, and you actually got your hands on the original documents? What was that like, being there and holding those, and just knowing what you were holding?
It was pretty profound. Bavaria is a beautiful part of Germany, and one of the producers and interviewees from the film that I'd been connected through Joe Wages, Reinhard Markner, he is the one that kind of set up our first visit there. So we went around to all of the different locations that were essential to the Illuminati. There was a really cool castle that we got to see. It's called Schloss Eggesberg. And a friend of mine owns the place. When I first met this person, I was like, "So what do you do?" He's like, "I'm a count." I'm like, "What does that mean?" And but he has like 13 names.
Wow.
But his friends call him Pedro. He's one of my favorite people I met during this whole journey. But it was really interesting because there are some living descendants of the founders of the Bavarian Illuminati that we got to meet with on our trip. And there's a shot in the film where you can see me walking toward one of their estates. It's a castle. And in that castle was, I'll leave the name of the family out just for security reasons.
Sure.
But the son, who's the Baron of the family now, his great, I don't know, however many greats, grandfather, goes back to the 1700s. He's one of the original members of the Illuminati around the time with Adam Weishaupt and Baron Adolf von Kaniga. And he brings out this box, and this box is full of old Freemasonic relics and Illuminati relics. And, in the film, it talks about what the connection is. And it was interesting to see with my own eyes the handwritten documents. And what I didn't know is that the handwriting is so beautiful during that time period. There's no typewriters, no machines doing this stuff. But for the Illuminati, the rituals were primarily written by Kaniga and the philosophy by Weishaupt. But Kaniga's daughter was actually the scribe who did all of the handwriting for the rituals. So I'm holding the ritual book in my hand, and it's in Old German, and then there's parts it switches over to Greek for their passwords, and Latin, and it was incredible. I was sitting there holding this relic, and with white gloves on, and I just I wanted to walk out of the castle with it, but that wouldn't be very Masonic of me. But it was an incredible experience. So.
That is so awesome. I just want to say before Cosmo, I feel like even, I learned so much watching that film and everything that you showed us in it. And, it was a different time back then. And, what we're doing today, if we were to be doing what we're doing today, we would have to probably do it in secret if we lived back then. I kind of find that interesting. So it's amazing this day and age we get to do this and have the freedom to talk to each other about these things. It's awesome. Cosmo, I'm going to send it over to you.
Yeah. So I know, Brother John, you're working on a new project, more of another documentary on Freemasonry about the shrine. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit more how that's going to look like when you're done with it?
Sure. So we got contacted by Carl Thompson. He's the potentate for the Al-Qaeda Shrine in Portland, Oregon. And originally he was talking about he wanted to film a small 5-minute video for their, I can't remember how many years of anniversary they had coming up for their shrine, but the more we talked about it, we got into talking about, well, there's never been a really good story told about, where the shrine comes from and the impact it's had on American culture and all of the amazing things that it's done, for children, especially burn victims, and all the free medical care that it provides to the country. So that's how that came about. And the more we dug into it, we started looking at how it, really impacted American culture, especially in the, during the time of the Prohibition era, and how it came to be from the around 1870 through 1872, when Florence and Fleming got together. So it's supposed to be coming out in November. A lot of that's going to rest on whether or not the theaters are going to open back up, and if it's safe for everyone to go see it. But at the least, if the theaters are going to be pushed back further, it's going to be on VOD and digital platforms for people to see. And we're looking at about a 90-minute runtime for that. Yeah. And then additionally to that too, the other things that we have that we're working on, I'm finishing up the script, something I've been working on for 2 years on a film called Son of the Dawn. It's a scripted feature. It's a supernatural thriller. It deals with elements of alchemy and sorcery and magic. It's a really interesting story. And we're probably going to be filming that in Pennsylvania, which is where I grew up. So, yeah.
Nice.
Oh, I can't wait for that one. That's going to be really cool. What I would like to do, guys, is if you don't mind, I would like to switch over to my desktop real quick and just show everybody how beautiful Illuminated looks. I'm going to switch over to it real quick here.
The Illuminati was a secret society those men use those secrets to their benefit.
When you have this goal, you become dangerous.
And there was also the hidden assumption that if anyone has any secret knowledge about alchemy and magic, then it must be people of social standing.
Sometimes we're not ready to understand those concepts.
What you have to think about is that the idea of initiation was equated with enlightenment.
It was necessary to do this behind closed doors.
It's because the Catholic Church owned most land, knowledge, your soul even.
The Illuminati was definitely on the side of the Enlightenment and very much opposed to the ongoing influence of the Jesuit order.
They were advocates for free thought, so it had some effect in the popular culture.
Does that not complete the work that the Illuminati itself had been set out to do, to enlighten the mind? This is the age of the secret society.
Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
What can you guys see me back? Am I back again, guys?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What brother Johnny, what inspired you to film the way you do, to use the beautiful color, the shots that you have, the blurring, the attention to detail? You could almost take each frame and turn it into a beautiful photograph. What really inspired you and kind of taught you that art form?
Well, one of my favorite directors is Ingmar Bergman, who did The Seventh Seal with Max von Sydow. And I looked at the way that he approached his subject matter in a philosophical sense. So when we were shooting a lot of the reenactments with the rituals, one of the main things that we focused on was not trying to cram a bunch of information in at once, but to let it breathe. So to create an actual feeling of, what it would feel like going through these types of ceremonies at that time. Because, there's no electricity, it's all candlelight. It's very serious. And it was a lot more, when you read the Illuminati rituals, they were a lot more, they had darker undertones than Masonic rituals do. So there's that aspect of it with the Bergman style. And then with a lot of the long shots, I'm a big fan of Kubrick. And I love how he would just, kind of push in really slow on things because that creates suspense and tension. And the film is really about, it's the story about a man, who created the Illuminati and how his philosophy ebbs and flows with his own life experience. His wife that he loves more than anything in the world dies. A lot of his children die young. His parents died by the time they were dead by the time he was 5. So it was, it's this melancholy of a journey of this man's mind, and the people that were in his life during that time. And that was really the approach of that is, how to create that really human experience on camera and then using the right type of soundscapes with each scene to do that. When the challenge that we had making this was that when we're talking about certain people, we're so far back in time with this film, in the late 1700s, there's not a lot of portraits or, any type of graphic elements to show some of these people. So for instance, when we would talk about his wife, Afra, we would show nature and flowers. And when we would talk about death, we would show darkness, or we would talk about, a new thing happening, maybe the sun would come up, or if there's a turbulent time, and the battle for membership of the Illuminati between the Freemasons and the Rosicrucians, we cut to snowfall. So we use the elements of nature to kind of fill in the gaps and to help us tell the story of the feeling of that time. And it's, again, the story of of an imperfect man's journey of just really trying to understand himself and the world around him.
That is awesome. Do you have any hidden patterns in the film? Do you have any hidden imagery, anything like that?
Yeah, there's quite a bit. There's actually a path working that we took from the rituals that weaves its way in throughout the film, and you have to pay close attention to it. But just little things that are placed, little objects, skulls here and there, when a degree is reflecting on mortality, or there could be like a little sprig of acacia in a scene. So there's little things sprinkled throughout it. And that makes the conspiracy, it's made the conspiracy community go crazy, and they refuse to believe that the Illuminati, what it was, doesn't exist today. The truth of the matter is that form of the Illuminati, it doesn't exist anymore. And their main problem was administration, with trying to communicate with people through handwritten correspondence.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that's another reason why I'm so glad you made the film. And I always ask people, go check that film out, and you'll learn a lot more about actually what happened back then. Because, one thing about our show is that people we invite on here, you guys are the scholars of your field, because you guys are operative. You actually go to the places and discover the items, and then you turn it into an art form. It's awesome. Cosmo, I hand it back to you, and then maybe we'll open it up to our audience.
So yeah, Brother John, it's been amazing watching your journey, and since you started making these films, and you inspired myself in many ways. I actually wrote a short story that's I'm going to be turning into eventually someday turn into a graphic novel, and potentially even a comic book, but. And it's because, all the things you've been working on, it kind of opened my eyes in different ways of looking at things, a little bit more artistic, versus just kind of digging, for the facts. I mean, you find the facts, and then you got to figure out, okay, how can you put this into an art form? And that's what you've been able to do all this time. And in fact, Brother Biggs and I have some ideas of that too, to one day hopefully put some things out on screen that are going to be appreciated by artists like yourself. So at this time, Brother Briggs, I just like to leave it open to our viewers, and see if anyone has any further questions for Brother Johnny.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a lot of people tonight. So what we do, folks, is basically. You can just jump in. You can unmic. Everybody here is real polite, and just jump in. Let us know who you are, and then we'll go with the question. So it looks like Doug Bernhardt. We'll start with you. Looks like he's got his hand up. Brother Doug.
Thank you, Briggs. Johnny, you said you were in Bavaria. One of my goals that I haven't made yet is to get to the Masonic hall in Bayreuth. Were you in that part? Were you in Bayreuth, Germany, or other parts?
I was, yes. We were pretty much we went all over Bavaria. I mean, every nook and cranny as well too. I mean, everything from Ingolstadt to München to Eggersberg, Eichstätt, and then outside of Bavaria too, where we got our hands on those original documents, was in Carbon, which is northwest Germany.
The Bayreuth's pretty famous for its, its standing up to Hitler in the Second World War, and other things too. And it's got supposedly, I haven't been to it, but the Masonic Hall there's supposed to be pretty amazing. Were you able to get in? Yes, it is.
I was. Yes, it's an amazing place, and it's interesting because fragments of the not esotericism, but fragments of the philosophy that Weishaupt created for the Illuminati, pieces of that philosophy are still alive and well in a lot of lodges in Germany. And I'm not saying that they're calling themselves Illuminati Freemasonry, but just some of the ideals that Weishaupt had inculcated into his own strains of philosophy within the Illuminati. They're definitely alive and well in a lot of those lodges. And that one in particular that you're mentioning, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous lodge.
All right. Looks like we have, I think it was it Lloyd?
Good morning from the Philippines, Brother Johnny.
Good morning. Kumusta ka?
Okay, okay ako. Thank you, thank you. My question is this: how do you, when you make movies, documentaries about the craft, how do you strike the balance between what to tell and what not to tell?
I ask people that are smarter than I am as far as governance goes in Freemasonry. So with the first film, 33 and Beyond, I consulted the Supreme Council for the Scottish Rite aspects of it. I met directly with past Sovereign Grand Commander Ron Seal. And then, also a lot of past Grand Masters in the state of California. Who am I forgetting? One of the, a lot of the film, that past film took place in Guthrie at the Scottish Rite there. So I actually screened it while we were in the middle of cutting it to the board at Guthrie, to their PR and their governing body. And, I just got their feedback. And, if people that are well-versed in the bylaws and political arena of Freemasonry are okay with certain things, then I am. Because there were a couple things that were just tricky filming the last film, But, everything was, we went to the edge, but we didn't go past that, We left the mystery there.
Salamat,
and some
Brother
people, some people will think that, I've had some comments from brothers that are not as well versed in the craft that think that, you can't discuss anything. But that's not true, because, one of the charges that we're given as Masons is to educate and to enlighten others. And we can't do that without discussing certain aspects of the craft. Not everything in the craft is esoteric. There's a lot that's monitorial that we can talk about, or even speculate of our own thinking on what certain things mean. And that does not break an oath. So that's the way that I approach it.
Salamat, Brother Johnny.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that awesome question. Looks like we got another one here from, let's see here. George, I believe, George Brooks, I believe.
George Ballady.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Brother Johnny, I know usually when I'm creating, I have to go through all the research, right? And with all the plethora of information that you probably had to, go through to find out what was going to make the final cut for the movies, I just wanted to ask, while you're giving to everyone else, how has all that information that you've kind of been able to absorb and take in enriched your personal view of your journey, your Masonic journey for yourself?
That's a really good question, and it's accelerated my wantonness to learn. And what I've been doing, I'm very active in both my Blue Lodge and in the Scottish Rite. So my Blue Lodge, depending on, again, if our lodges open up, I'll be junior warden next year. But in the Scottish Rite, I'm past commander of Kadosh. I'm the assistant director of the work. I direct a lot of the degrees. And what I'm doing, what all of this research has done for me is I'm going to primary sources of where these things come from, where these schools of thought come from. So, if we're talking about Islam and a degree, then I am reading the Quran. Or if we're talking about Aristotle, I'm reading Nicomachean Ethics by Aristotle. And then that has spawned more of a desire for things. One of my favorite philosophers is Albert Camus, who's a French-Algerian philosopher. And I'm reading for the, 20-something time right now, A Happy Death, along with my 18th straight read-through of Morals and Dogma, my Blue Lodge cipher book, and just, anything else I can get my hands on. History of Magic by Eliphas Levi. which was a big source for Morals and Dogma. So it's definitely accelerated not just my desire, but my perspective on how I view things as far as comparative religion, philosophy, and theology go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we got a question from Brother Jeremy on Facebook. Are there any other Masonic documentary ideas that you have been reflecting about, but are not sure if you will actually ever produce? Wow, that's a great question.
There is one that another brother and I, it deals with some writing from Manly P. Hall. We had been tossing that back and forth. I don't know if it will ever come to fruition, just because with everything that I have on my plate, the Shriner documentary, and then we might be putting out, as producers, we might be putting out and distributing a documentary on John Nieto, who's a famous Native American artist. And then after that, I'm done with documentaries. They're very hard to make, and 33 and Beyond took me 7 years to make, and Illuminated was 2 years. So I cut the pace down. But that Son of the Dawn, that's a $30 million budget we're looking at, and that's going to be a really big film. And I like writing stories more than putting together talking heads and then finding B-roll to cover up certain things anyways.
Would you say because it took 7 years, that 33 and Beyond was kind of your journey into learning this craft and being somebody that a lot of people are looking at now and being on the edge of the art form?
I would say so. One of the things, the reason why I'm on camera and in the film is that I had to kind of fill in the gaps for the storyline that was missing, aspects of the degrees and the transition and differences between the York Rite and the Scottish Rite, and similarities between the two. And same thing with Illuminated. So when you're watching a documentary, one of the best documentary directors and writers that's out there in the world is Alex Gibney. He did the documentary on the Church of Scientology that HBO had distributed. But one of the tricks is that when you get all of your interviews back for your look on film, you send them off for transcription, and that makes things a lot easier as far as putting the storyline together. But all of it's this, it's been a kind of a collective process of, it still is, it's a very difficult story to tell, these things are. And the one thing that I was looking for through this was, has this been done before? Is it original? Is it being told in an original manner?
That's awesome. Anybody else out there have a question for Brother Johnny?
I do.
All right, Jason. Brother
Howdy.
Jason.
Thank you for coming. I'm very intrigued by the title of this upcoming movie. Is it Son of the Dawn or The Son of the Dawn?
Just Son of the Dawn.
Son of the Dawn. Can you tell us something give us an overview of what that story will be about?
Well, on a human level, like I said, there's supernatural elements to it. On a human level, it's a story about transformation of someone going within their self, and someone that deals with constant anxiety with this character. The character's name's Lucas. And I do a lot of play on words with the character names too. So the main character's name is Lucas Farah. And if you look at what I'm talking about there, you can get an idea of what that character represents. And I see you smiling, a couple of you. So
Does that mean the Iron Light? Is that the Iron Light?
No, but you're close to it.
Okay.
And think of son of the dawn, the morning star.
Is it S-U-N?
S-O-N.
Okay.
Yeah, S-O-N. So the first light, the flame, the dawn, the morning star, and but it represents that in a symbolic. He represents that character in a symbolic way, and he has two sisters in the film that also represent magical aspects of astrology and old sorcery and witchcraft. And that's as much as I can kind of go into without giving anything away. And it's really, really good, though. It got to a place where, writing a scripted supernatural thriller is really tough, not to make it complicated, but to remove yourself so that the reader, the audience watching it on the screen doesn't know that, I'm there, and drawing on past experiences of my life. And then, the condition and state of the world today. So it deals with a lot of that in a symbolic context.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I cannot wait to see that film. I about 7 months ago finished a book called The Mysterian Trilogy, and I attempted the same thing, just kind of an esoteric thriller in 3 books, and people are buying it. So it's been fun. I'm gonna have to send you a copy and see what you think. Wow, I can't wait to see that film. That is going to be awesome. Anybody else have a question for Brother Johnny?
Sure, I've got a question.
All right, all right, Tracy.
Yeah, now I know that you've worked with some really good, let's say, placed people for your information. And I know you worked with Joe Wages, and you were at the House of the Temple and all that. And you see a lot of the things, especially I've talked with Joe Wages, and he's got a lot of stuff that he's looked in. What's the newest, most intriguing thing that you have found through your research that not a lot of us have had a chance to see?
Well, first, Joe Wages is one of my favorite people in the world. He's a very good friend of mine and my family's. And, it was really Joe's book, the first time that maybe not the first time, but it was the most well thought out version of the Illuminati rituals translated into English. So kudos to him. But as far as discovery, like I said, I'm really digging deep into the higher degrees. I'm very active in the Scottish Rite, and I present an in-depth analysis every month on Zoom for different valleys that come together on the esotericism of the different degrees. So I write a paper a month. I'm also in the College of the Consistory, and as I mentioned, the assistant director of the work for the Valley. But all of it, it's kind of hard to put into words. I think that it was kind of accurately said when they're certain. It gets to a point where they become ineffable. All of Masonry. It's hard to put it into words because there's a direct connection. But I think going to the sources of a lot of the work in Morals and Dogma lately, especially a history of magic, and looking at where some of those patterns of thought emerge in our degrees, because when you read Morals and Dogma or Bridge to Light, and then you actually read the different versions of the rituals from Franken, Pike, the Hutchins versions, it's hard to put into words. I think it's the biggest thing that I've discovered would be discovering myself. The things that I have in me that are of good quality and things that I really need to work on a lot, and realizing that, I'm very, very far from the shores of perfection, and that it's a lifelong journey on a crooked path to get to that place. So, I think that, I see myself. I know who I am. And, the Illuminati and their degrees, one thing that keeps popping into my head is that, they said that self-knowledge is the magical looking glass through which you come to know others. Are you on the outside as you appear on the inside? how very ugly it can often be to behold the unconcealed human heart. Know thyself. Nosce te ipsum, ex te nosce alios, and from thyself know others. And I think that rings true. And it's all about self-knowledge and going within. So the biggest thing I've discovered is myself.
That is awesome. What are some things that you've learned just in life in general? You know, I've watched some of your interviews, and I found it incredible that you just kind of stumbled in London in your journey at the beginning at Ground Zero at the Temple Church. Is that right?
Yes.
That's incredible. Right. That's a great way to start.
Yeah. Well, thank the people that invented tort law, because they made it so boring I couldn't go to that class.
Oh my God. All right. Thank them. That's awesome. Tell us about the because you're somebody who is completing big projects. You know, that's something important to me in life is completing something. And tell us about the ups. There's always ups and downs. There's walls you got to break through. There's mental stuff. Share with us how you were able to complete these things. What have you learned in life to help you when you do hit that wall or something like that, that you just, you know, what do you use to help you just keep your will moving forward?
You know, there was a big transition for me from going from music into film. For music, it was about my ego, serving my ego. But why I loved music is because of the storytelling aspect of it. When I got into film, it was not about my ego. It was about, I found a medium that I can combine all of the skills and talents that I have and had, and put them into play so that I could really do what I'm put on this earth to do, which is to share the light that I have within me and the knowledge that I've accumulated with other people. So that's what my driving force always is when I'm trying to complete something, whether it's a movie or a paper that I'm writing, or learning, memorizing ritual, but it's knowing that it's going to make me a better person, and that by myself becoming a better person, I can help make the world a little bit better itself. And that's really the secret and the key that I've experienced and found, is self-transformation for good, for light, is what changes the world. You know, the politicians and everything that goes on in the world, all of that has its place in history. But really what makes a difference in the world is the individual. Knowing who they are, educating themselves, and having a moral regiment, which Freemasonry provides. And that's the code that I live by, and that's what helps me complete things.
That is fantastic. It's amazing. A lot of us are on that journey with you. You know, this whole group here. It's awesome to be with everybody this evening. Cosmo, do you have any thought of anything sparked your?
Yeah, you know, I'm sitting here figuring all this out, and what Brother Johnny just talked about just hit me. And then basically, I'm opening my shop here in September, and when COVID hit, you know, it definitely put in a strain and a slowdown and a halt in the whole project, and also in my book too, because I'm trying to get the book published, and I want to make sure that, you know, we get that done. But again, as I was thinking to myself, you know, during these time of crisis, Freemasonry, you know, I'm glad that I spend the time to learn and dive into the different rituals and the different teachings, because one of the things that I picked up, you know, because I did go through a pretty crazy storm last year in my life, I just said, you know, the opportunity is there, you know, and the great architect has found a way to kind of realign everything, and now the pasta shop is continuing. We started construction, it's moving forward. There hasn't been any hiccups at all, and it's just, you know, and I can feel it. You know, it's this feeling that, you know, once you open, it's gonna work, it's gonna do well, and it's gonna continue to move forward to the next level. And it's because of Freemasons, because of the things that I picked up myself, and the transformation that's happened within myself. And I know Brother Biggs, you were there with me Actually, we transformed together one way or the other. You from one stage to the next, and I did the same. So, and it's nice to share with somebody else too while we're doing it, because you know it's real, you know it's happening, and you know Freemason is working. And going back to the Illuminati, those guys were doing the same thing back then. So that's what I'm thankful for.
Awesome. Johnny, meditation, we were talking a little earlier about, I love meditation. I find when I enter into that state is where you can really connect with everybody, and you realize everybody's the same when you get into that deep meditation. Talk to us a little bit about your experience with meditation.
Sure. Mine comes from, I've dealt with anxiety for a long time in my life, and a lot of it started, I had two NDEs or two near-death experiences where my heart literally stopped. One, I was 5 years old and I drowned. And I'd have CPR. I was out for about 2 minutes. And I don't remember anything from that, except the feeling of the chlorine from the water coming up from my lungs, getting CPR. The second one, I was older. I was in my 20s, and I was in a car accident. And I was in the emergency room, and I remember telling the doctor that I thought I was going to pass out. And there was a feeling of sickness I got in my stomach. When I had that experience, that was different. I remembered certain things from it. I didn't see any bright light or anything like that. And I struggled for a long time trying to figure out what that was. But I think what I experienced was an aspect of divine consciousness, because when we die, we don't have a body anymore. So we don't have the ability to see through eyes, or, we don't have our five senses. But there's this realm, if you want to call it that I experienced, where I did experience both order and chaos in that place. After I got out of that, the way that my mind started to react to reflecting on that situation was, it was speeding up. It needed more. I needed to read more, to the point where all I was doing was reading all day long as much as I could, writing. Really like the 7 liberal arts and sciences. I was just obsessed with as much that I could know, and discovering transcendental meditation about how to balance that. And we talk about how important balance is in masonry, but the equilibrium. I was like, well, how what is balance really? What is the equilibrium? Because it all ebbs and flows. But even right now as we're talking, I'm doing this whole time. I've been doing transcendental meditation, just focusing on that mantra.
Yes.
And it turns into like this vibration of an ontological sense. It's not a physical sense.
Yes.
But it's in my being, and I'm putting it there. And that's what I do every day. And my mantra is our sacred word from the 32nd degree, the abbreviation of those sacred words. So that goes very far and deep within my being, my state of being. And it's incredible when you grasp the concept of meditation and how important it is to daily life. Not getting on your phone as soon as you wake up in the morning, but taking time to just breathe and just to live and to be in the moment, be in the future, not be in the past, be in the moment, and realize that all of time is this continuous string that's wrapped all around us at all times. And I can keep going, and I'll start giving people headaches. But
that's the truth. It's getting into that space of right now and shutting the intellect down and not doing the past or the future. And when you hit that center spot, man, it starts going. I don't know how there's no words to explain it, I think.
Yeah. But
it's a beautiful place, and it really is. And I highly recommend it to anybody out there and to the brothers out there. I do 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm just doing basics. If you want to learn, it's been phenomenal. Anybody else have a question for Brother Johnny?
I did. I sent you one, Briggs.
Oh, yes, Doug.
Did you find any relationship between alchemy and the study of alchemy and the Illuminati?
Oh, cool.
Absolutely. What I found was the idea of just transmutation in general, because what Weishaupt, it's interesting what Weishaupt was trying to do in his philosophy, and I've studied it quite a bit, his rituals. What he was trying to do is he was trying to really prove the existence of the soul. And he was doing that through, I think, an alchemical approach of taking the idea that the thought itself is not the gold. The thought is the lead. And that through the practical work of his system of philosophy, that would be the alchemical gold, is the deed or the written word. One of the things that he had a lot of the members do was keep that journal called the Quibus Licet that they had to turn in every month, and they could write about anything they wanted, which were, optics or math, anything scientific, philosophical, artistic. But he definitely had a lot of similarities with alchemical thinking. And whether or not he realized that, I don't know. But what I do know is that the man that raised him, his godfather, the Baron Johann von Eichstätt, he was the book censor for Ingolstadt University. And so he was in charge of he was supposed to be getting rid of all of these heretical books that the Catholic Church deemed so during that time. And they're just philosophical books. But he collects these books. And I think in part of that library, there were quite a few manuscripts and writings on alchemical philosophy and thinking. So we know that Weishaupt, at least from a philosophical standpoint, when you read his writing and the way that he structures his thinking in his written word, it is very, very alchemical in nature.
That is an awesome question. I never knew that. I'm a practicing alchemist. I've recreated a lot of the past works and stuff like that. I've done it since I was a kid. And you find something interesting about yourself. You find out there's a talker, and then there's an experiencer. At least this has been my experience. And there's one that experiences everything. And for me, this day and age, I feel like that's my soul. So when I'm doing these alchemical experiments, there's no talk, because everything has to be done gently, and you have to judge everything just right. What you get out of it is the feeling when you see a transmutation, even if it's just zinc and copper turning into brass. When you see it flash and go through the colors, that's not talk. You feel it. You feel that experience. So the experiencer, and again, I don't know if this is the soul, but I've kind of attached myself to that. The experiencer kind of gets that experience that is indescribable. That is so cool that you explained that. I had no clue. Boy, that makes so much sense. Thank you so much. Great question, Doug.
No,
I don't know if you wanted to add to that, Johnny.
Yeah, just one last thing about that regarding alchemy. Weishaupt was very much he was a very contradictory man, meaning that he was very much against the Rosicrucians during that time because of the member wars. And Rosicrucianism, there's a lot of built-in alchemy into the methodology behind that system. But again, the way he writes and the way that he approaches things philosophically, if you look at it from there's a system called quantitative calculus, which breaks down grammar into mathematics, and you can prove if a statement is true or false that way, or get an idea of it. So he takes that approach, and that makes him contradictory.
Okay.
Which Camus would say, is absurd, meaning that that's contradictory. And another thing that he's contradictory in is that he's very much opposed to the philosophy during that time of Immanuel Kant, who wrote the groundwork of the metaphysics of ethics. But toward the end of his writing in the higher degrees in the Illuminati, he literally is writing exactly like Immanuel Kant, even though he dislikes this other philosopher's writing so much. So in my philosophical viewpoint of Weishaupt, he was very much he was an absurdist, as Camus would say.
With people we've had on the show in the past, is there any connection you see the Illuminati to any of the works of like a Francis Bacon in England or a Dr. John Dee? Do you see them interested in any of those two gentlemen?
I mean, historically, factually, I don't know, okay. But I can't say yes to that because I don't have any supporting documentation of that. But again, he grows up with that private library of over 4,000 volumes, and there's more than likely there probably were, there might have been a book on John Dee in that library. I mean, they use a dark mirror in that, but then in the book of Ecclesiastes, they also talk about the dark mirror too. Mm-hmm. And in the Illuminati, you actually, to join, to become an Illuminati member, you either had to be a Christian or a non-practicing Jew.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah. So
I was thinking the same thing because that John Dee's library, was ransacked when he was traveling. So that's been something I've been seeking out, is where did those books go? And then you wonder, they land in someone's lap, just like us. We read an alchemical testimony as younger adults in our 20s, and we're just, here we are today.
Yeah.
So I got to believe they were, yeah. I didn't know he had that library. That is fantastic. We have about maybe 8 minutes left, guys. If anybody else has any more questions, please jump in.
Yeah, I mean, after somebody sees your film, Illuminati, what do you want them to take from it? I mean, you created this.
Great question.
Produced, directed. What do you when someone walks out of the theater and they're talking to somebody, what do you want them to be talking
about? Well, what I want them to be talking about versus what, to start with, what I hope for is that they enjoyed it, that they learned something. What I hope for in the long run is that people will be motivated to do research which might inspire them to write something or to read something new, to further their ideas of culture and the understanding of culture around the world, and the systems of philosophy and religion. There's a great line. I won't note the source of it for some reasons, but there's a line that says, the truths of philosophy and religion are foremost like the sun's rays that strike upon the Arctic snows. They glitter and are reflected, but they do not penetrate and warm. So when someone leaves, I hope that it inspires them to do some intellectual work. And I hope that they enjoy the film, that they get the message that I'm trying to convey, the beauty of what's happening in these things and the feeling of it, to walk away with the feeling of like this depth that hopefully resonates with them, that there is something more to all of this than just what you see in the mirror or what you see walking down the street or driving in your car on a daily basis, because reality is so strange and it's so beautiful. And that's what I hope for when people watch the films, because it's a catalyst. My hope is that it's a catalyst for people to dive deeper into who they are and to what the world really is. And that's coming from a purely philosophical context of understanding existence itself, understanding being itself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely, I would agree 100%, man. Thank you for saying that. We all need to hear that, especially.
Sorry, my
nowadays.
cat.
Oh,
my cat.
Look at that!
Every film, everything I film, this cat gets screen time. She knows when I'm on camera, and she has a twin sister, and you always have to ruin the moment, don't you?
Yeah, before we started, we have a cat named Jax. He's polydactyl, so he's in Bengals. He's got the thumbs. And if you remember from Garfield, he's like normal. I mean, I'm getting ready to jump on, and he's already standing on the keyboard.
I'm thinking of the Matrix right now. You know, the cat.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's all.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we're closing up on the hour, guys. Brother Johnny, I can't thank you enough for joining us tonight. And, we set this up, months ago. And, Cosmo and I started this show just to create a platform where we could talk with brothers that we're fans of. And, Joe Martinez said today, and I would agree, you are a true treasure to our craft. And I just want to thank you again for making these films that people are going to look at 100 years from now. And it's going to represent, they're not going to know who I am, but it's going to represent the masonry of our generation. And I can't thank you enough for that. Cosmo, any closing remarks?
No, I just want to thank Brother Johnny for being on, and hopefully the next time, we have, the next time we'll be in person. We'd love to it's always good to meet in person when we can. Yes. But obviously we're making the best of it right now during these crazy times, these alternative realities that are out there.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody, Saturday morning, 10 a.m. If you're interested in the work of Carl Jung and Freemasonry, we've got worshipful brother Ron Richards from Tucson, who's going to be doing a presentation for us. You can find Brother Johnny's movies on Amazon Prime. I have that. I'm going to watch Illuminated tonight, and I'm going to follow that path. I'm actually really excited to do that. Also, 33 and Beyond is available. He also has music. Is there a specific website we can direct people to your work?
Yeah, so if you have Amazon or Amazon Prime, you can watch them both for free. It's amazon.com/V as in Victor /Praetorian. So that's our production company, Praetorian. That's our channel on Amazon. So you can watch both films right there. They're free. And if you don't have Amazon, they're cheap and they're worth the buy.
Absolutely. We want to thank you again for another enlightened conversation, Cosmo. We did it again. That's how we started this group, was to have a real enlightened conversation with brothers, and we can't thank you enough. Brother Johnny, to close out, we always ask our guests to leave us with a little piece of some wisdom to kind of help us get through the week. So we'll go ahead and leave it over to you, and then we'll go ahead and shut her down for tonight. And again, my brother, I can't thank you enough.
Thank you, brothers, for having me. Thank you all for being a part of this. The piece of wisdom that I will leave you with is a very simple Latin motto, which is Silentium audium est. Silence is golden. Yeah. Take time to be silent, listen to what's coming from within, and realize that to know the self is to know the others in the world. And I leave you with that. So mote it be.